Hello, everybody. This is Liam Billingham, co-host of Oeuvre Busters. Before we jump into this week's episode on Red Dragon, directed by Brett Ratner and featuring Phillip Seymour Hoffman, barely, I'd like to just remind you to please take the time to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. We had no new ratings. Actually, we had one new rating. Sorry. Thank you very much. 5 stars. No surprise. But no new reviews this week. And the more reviews and ratings we get and the more subscriptions, the more people can find the show. So it would be very, very helpful if you could please take the time to do so. And also, if you have thoughts on any of our opinions, like George's theory that Love Lisa was about 9/11, crackpot, we would love to hear them. That's all for now. We're very excited that the esteemed and great and former Brooklyn resident, we miss you, Paul Molinari, is here to talk about Red Dragon. Enjoy this episode. I'm Liam Billingham.
I'm George Fragopoulos.
And I'm Paul Molinari.
Another guest host.
And this is Paul.
Oh, it's the song about Uber Beats.
Uber Beats is good enough.
Beats.
Uber Beats. So today we're discussing in our Phillip Seymour Hoffman
arc campaign.
Call it what you will. 2002's Red Dragon,
directed
and
by
Brett. Well, that's what I was going to get to. So Paul's here because he is
the
a
world's
resident
foremost
Brett Ratner
aficionado.
And you guys can't see it because obviously this is not a visual medium.
He has a Ratner tattoo.
Yeah, Rat for life.
Rat.
Yeah.
Rat
Oh, wow.
for life.
Rat for life. Yeah.
Well, real quick. What Brett Ratner movies had you seen before
I
this?
have only seen the X-Men movie, The Last Stand,
and
Red Dragon.
George?
I've seen this.
Red Dragon.
I've seen Red Dragon just yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And
for the first time?
For the first time.
Had you seen Red Dragon before?
I actually saw it in the theater.
Oh,
Nice.
interesting. That's my second time seeing it as well.
But I didn't realize it was actually after Hannibal. For some reason, I thought it was.
I looked
Hannibal is a...
I looked that up.
Hannibal.
Yeah,
I
2001.
love Hannibal.
I can't believe they were made so... they were pretty much back to back. Because they're very
We
different.
were crazy for psychiatrists
People
back
love...
We were, yeah. Oh, I see what you did there. Crazy for them, yeah. It's a good.
What?
Liam, yeah.
then. Nailed
What?
it.
Can you... your Brett Ratner films, please? I'm trying to run a fucking podcast
Can I
here.
quickly... I think I've alluded to it before, but can I just tell
Go
my
for
Brett Ratner story?
Oh my God, you've told the story, and
Have
I
I in
edited
full?
out the last time. Yeah, because it wasn't that good.
Oh, come on.
No, let's hear it. Let's hear the...
Well,
first of all, which
okay.
Brett Ratner movies have you
Brett
seen?
Ratner.
Brett Ratner.
Which is I think he actually didn't he call like his production company like Brat Pack or something, or like Brett Pack? Yeah. I have some really great facts. Can I just read these Brett Ratner
Let's
facts?
do it.
So I was doing some research.
Oh, I think they're called Brett Facts.
Yeah. I was reading the
Welcome to Brett Facts.
the peer reviewed journal on Brett Ratner studies.
Okay.
And it says
It's an
here,
academic joke. 2 guys in the room get that joke, and I'm kind of like, I sort of am around getting it.
I just need to read this one fact. Okay, Ratner began directing music videos in the 90s. When he was a sophomore at New York University, he was manager and executive producer for BMOC, Big Man on Campus, one of the first white rap groups. I was like, of course.
Makes so much
You made a
fucking
movie
Brett
called
Ratner would do
Whatever
that.
Happened to Mason Reese in NYU. That's a pretty good short.
I do want to say that this film is like stylishly crafted and like well made.
I'd like to point you to a
Zoom
movie
in
called...
the movie.
Although you
I'd
saw
like to...
zoom in the movie. Although we do have to talk about Ed Norton's
I would
job.
like to very quickly just point you towards a movie called Hannibal or Silence of the Lambs when you talk about a stylistically made
Yes.
movie. Get the fuck out of here.
All right, so the movie begins. Oh wait, sorry. We should talk about the opening credits.
The opening titles.
Yes.
Oh, the titles.
What were your thoughts?
So, of course, I always think about the classic opening titles on newspaper, which would be Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, those are great
It
titles.
really just distills exactly what happened to Eddie Valiant
Yep. That's
over
true.
his entire life, and this was not that.
No, this was not
No,
that.
this was
This was
guys.
It was a lot of titles. Also, it's a lot of psycho. I feel like this movie is abound with Hitchcock references, like B-
I mean,
Hitchcock.
is this a movie about the press more than anything else because of that damn diary and how
That's
much
true.
information he gets out of that?
It might be.
That's true. That's a good point.
I wrote at some point very good at scrapbooking.
My problem with the titles was that like one word would be in red and the other would be in white, and the woefully random like, why is Brett Ratner. Like, why is that in red? Like, that's what I couldn't help but laugh at that because it was just so. That's what my note couldn't help laughing.
So these are you guys are talking about the titles after like the opening,
The
like
first
the cold
scene.
open, right?
Yeah,
so
'cause there is a cold
open.
open.
What's the cold
Yeah.
open?
Is the concert.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So there's
the
a
film,
concert.
The film opens. Lecter's taking in the show.
Right.
It is Mendelssohn's Midsummer Night's Dream, I believe.
I believe you're
Yeah, I
right.
did my research again in the
Nice.
peer-reviewed
I
journal.
just knew
I'm
it by
pretty
ear.
sure it was that Depeche Mode record, but go ahead.
Maybe, yeah. Which one?
Where the flautist
Um,
really kills
I
it.
can't remember the name.
Everybody knows that famous Depeche Mode record. Yeah, of
The
course.
sad thing is every Depeche Mode album
Personal
just left in
Jesus.
my head.
Yeah.
Reach out and touch faith.
Yeah, of course,
that
yeah.
one, yeah, that's bow, bow, bow,
So he's taking in the show and he's pissed off because the
the flautist.
flautist.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Was it the flautist?
It was. It absolutely was.
Mental note: order some flautas later from Nuevo Mexico.
Interesting.
Getting hungry. So the flautist is like killing it, and
Interesting.
not in a good way, but he's
No.
botching it. And Hannibal is clearly annoyed. And if we know anything about Hannibal Lecter at this point,
Which we do because we've had 2 films.
Right.
We've
Yes.
actually had 3 films.
we've had
One's
3.
a masterpiece and 2 are fine.
is that he takes his
Manhunter's
Yeah, I was
classical
afraid that was
music
going to happen.
very, very seriously. Maybe it's not the time to talk about Manhunter.
Okay, cool. It's always time.
I haven't seen it.
It's always time to talk.
I
about
haven't seen it either.
It's
You
amazing.
have.
Yeah, of course.
And this isn't our Men on Man podcast where we
No,
only
mansplaining.
Mansplaining. Is that what we're calling it? Yeah.
Mansplaining.
We don't talk about Michael Mann films, but I remember seeing actually bits and pieces of it because it used to be on TV all the time.
Right. So this opening scene, the guy screws up on that, and then
And then we cut to
so the flautist can't play, and there's like a cut to Hannibal Lecter. Like,
Well,
looking
there's an intense
concerned.
zoom.
Yeah,
like,
that's a
from
long
the back
push.
of like the.
It's one of the
the
more
orchestra.
stylish moments in the film. George was saying that he thought this was like a stylish movie.
Yeah,
and
he did say
I'm
it
gonna,
had a
I'm gonna,
particular
I'm gonna
style
say it
to
looks
it.
mostly like
I'm-
a TV movie.
I may have
sticking
said
with-
something about Pasolini.
Yeah, I see a lot of echoes.
So then
Totally.
we cut to a dinner, and this is when the movie gets bad because that first scene's pretty good.
2 minutes in.
Well, but the
time code
second-
213.
The second, what's his name opens his mouth, you're like, oh god,
Well,
who wrote this?
It's very campy.
Well, it's a
Very
thing
good.
where it's an introduction to AFI's #1 villain of all time. That's straight comedy.
Yeah, that's true.
Him like
Is he?
wincing,
Yeah.
him wincing in like the audience, like every time the flautist hits a note.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's, I mean, we're just basically making a comedy about Hannibal Lecter right now.
Yeah.
I just can't help like that colored like the rest, the dinner, the concert. It was just
well, the
like
other
so,
problem with the dinner is they're sitting there and they're like, Hannibal, this looks delicious. And then Sue Ellen Mishke from Seinfeld
Very
is
good
like,
reference.
I
Did
can't
not realize that.
Thank you. I can't help but I can't believe we're having such a good time while our best flautist is missing. And like he's like, yeah, like he's like literally twirls his mustache. And like while he's serving these plates of like very red meat.
This
it's so
isn't-
stupid.
But I felt like this film attempted to like capture a balance between the first 2. Like this is not as campy as Hannibal.
yeah, but
Hannibal is
Hannibal's so
campy.
good.
It's been a very long time since I've seen it.
I
so-
don't remember how.
I will
It's not great, but it's so good. It's one of those movies
It's
where it's like
not,
at
but
least
it-
Ridley Scott went
but
for
it's
it.
super
I give.
campy.
Yeah, I guess.
You literally hear Hannibal Lecter say "okie dokie" before he
I
throws.
don't
down.
remember that.
Yeah, he goes "okie dokie,"
Right. It's
which
good,
is, you know,
though.
it's like good. So then basically, yes, obviously he's feeding them the flautist,
Mhm.
and
But there's the guy who's like, well, he's a terrible flautist, and they all like laugh, and you're
Yeah.
like, what?
no, yeah, the dialogue's terrible.
It's really. I was ready for someone to say, "Shit, I wish I was eating this guy." You know, it's really on the nose.
Some might say we're eating Uda right
But
now,
then the movie
and
has
he's
the
in our
restraint.
stomachs.
It has the restraint to cut, and he's cleaning up, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the doorbell,
Yeah, there you
and
go.
in walks
Ed Norton.
some
Norton.
blonde bimbo.
Oh yeah,
What the fuck is it with this dye job? It was so goddamn
It's-
distracting.
that's a guy living his life on the beach.
Yeah, that's
Or
true.
soon will be.
Sand in his hair,
And Norton plays
Will Graham.
Will Graham.
who was played by William Peterson in Manhunter. I'm just gonna keep comparing.
And then also
it to the
played by
better.
someone in that TV show that was really good.
Oh yeah.
I forgot who played him though.
Yeah.
With
the
Mads.
British guy. It doesn't matter, but yeah.
No.
But
They're
it's
all-
a,
they're all
that's a
British
good show
guys.
that I couldn't watch anymore of it. It really
It-
upset me.
Prince Charles.
Agreed.
British guy? And then, like a really interesting
I think
turn?
it was Bob Hoskins.
Oh yeah.
He- after playing Eddie Valiant.
of course,
God, I miss him.
Bob
I
Hoskins.
know, so sad.
So Will shows up, and apparently he's been working with
Working tirelessly to
with
figure-
Hannibal.
All right.
to obviously find the the Chesapeake
Slayer, or
Ripper.
whatever. Chesapeake
which
Ripper.
is
Right.
hilarious. What you don't find out is what they've been calling Hannibal till afterwards. Also, I was like, wow, I didn't realize that this takes place in Baltimore. And I was like, man.
Partially Baltimore, right?
Well, in the beginning, but I'm saying like Hannibal, like that those are stomping grounds, and I was like, holy shit, like a Hannibal fucking The Wire crossover is like what I need to see before I die. So long story short, Will finds out that like Hannibal is in fact
Is the murderer,
the one who's been eating all these people, because he looks at his bookshelf.
After the zoom in on the sweetbreads line in his
just
French
zooms in
cookbook,
for-
it is like 3 cuts
that's so.
between
Thank you for bringing
Ed
this
Norton
up because it's like
sweetbreads, Ed
this
Norton
is a problem.
sweetbreads.
One of the notes I wrote down at some point was, Will Graham is less scared of anything than Brett Ratner is, because Brett Ratner's just like sweetbreads, and like it goes to Edward Norton, he's like,
Well, yeah.
like sort of like, and then like behind him, Hannibal Lecter has the knife, and you're like, dummy.
He's
Also,
a total
anyone
mimbo.
named Hannibal Lecter, you're a cannibal.
Yeah,
you're a
it's-
cannibal.
I guess it's pretty much like there in the name. Yeah.
Like,
He's
he
like, why'd
should
you
be
change
like,
your name from Joe
Hannibal
Lecter?
Lecter, cannibal.
Yeah. Hey, why'd you change your name?
Do you feel like
I don't
people
know.
named Hannibal are like, fuck, man? I'm AFI's #1 villain of all time.
They're just all
Hannibal
over the place.
Buress is like, God damn it.
There's so many of them.
There's 3
So
darts
then
out
we
there
have
real
this
mad, too.
ridiculous title sequence.
Well, they
because
fight.
No,
fight,
they have to fight.
and Will Graham kills Hannibal. Or no, good God,
Kills him.
shoots him a couple times.
A lot of times. Yeah.
And we get to see Anthony Hopkins' ponytail.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, the ponytail is the
I really
star of the show.
the anti-aging technology
By giving him a ponytail.
Yeah, it was like incredible.
To be fair, Anthony Hopkins has looked 100 years old since Silence of the Lambs.
Agreed.
It's even before that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Well, what did you see him before Silence of the Lambs?
Oh, on some King Lear.
Oh, really?
On Broadway.
Did you?
No. But I'm sure he has at some point played King Lear, and if he hasn't,
Tread the boards.
he should.
That's an expression I heard once.
Did an amazing
Is that a
scene
thing?
on the Heath.
That's King Lear.
Yeah. that's
Oh,
what I
you said King Lear.
yeah.
Wow, I'm off.
So then we get these amazing title sequences.
Really good.
Yes, really good.
Where we get caught up to speed on something we already know.
Yeah, and this
Yes.
is where you find out that his name is the Chesapeake Peak Ripper because of the montage. You see also, do you see a picture of Phillip Seymour Hoffman here?
You know, but you see the
No, but
Tattler.
and
You know
you
it's
see-
Freddie
right.
Lowndes. You see the name Freddie
You see
Lowndes.
his work.
You see his work, yeah. And you see kind of, you get caught up a little bit on what's happened because so apparently also like you find out that Will is retired.
Right.
And that's where the
He's
next scene
cleaning
kind of
boats.
takes place.
He's making
yeah.
boats. And all of a sudden he's on the beach.
So it's 7 years later. We cut
Right.
to,
Wait.
please.
Stop.
Guys, who hired Danny Elfman to score
Yes.
this movie?
Who
Yes.
hired
What
Danny
the fuck
Elfman
is going
to score
on
this movie?
You're right, yeah.
with the score? I felt like I was watching Batman
It's
Returns.
a Hitchcock ripoff, I think.
I mean, but once again, like
Not
what,
Hitchcock.
What tone is this? Is this a comedy?
Yeah.
Is this
Nightmare.
whimsy? A gothic whimsy? Like,
Also,
no,
you
the
see who
tone-
shot it? Dante Spinati, who also
yeah, of course,
shot a little movie called Manhunter.
double
So
dips.
it's yeah,
Wait,
and
guys,
one of them
you know what I
did a
just
good
figured out?
job.
Holy shit! Is this the shared cinematic universe of Silence of the Lambs?
That's
and
what the
Hannibal?
ending would like you to expect when he's like,
my
Hannibal, you have a visitor. It's a lady. What's her name?
I should have said spoiler alert. I wrote in my notes like it would have been amazing if there was like a Rogue One ending where they like brought like they digitally like
But like good.
reconstructed like a
the
Jodie
Lucas
Foster.
cut,
Yeah,
the Lucas cut put in
Hope.
Jodie.
yeah. And she walks in. Hope.
What a goddamn awful ending.
So then we cut to Will and he's on the beach
Mm-hmm.
building
Boats.
Well, not boats. He's fixing engines.
He's fixing motors.
Fixing
we find out.
The
okay,
Hollywood
but it's
version.
boats, guys. It's boats.
And Harvey Keitel, who plays Crawford, shows
Jack
up.
Crawford, played by Dennis Farina in Manhunter. Much
Oh.
better. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna watch that movie now.
Harvey Keitel will definitely not get farinaed.
No,
he will
he's-
not. Yeah.
So
he's
Harvey
secure.
Keitel shows up and he's like, "I've got this serial killer,
Yeah.
and you've got
Named the
to
Tooth Fairy. Does he
In
call him the
Tooth
Tooth Fairy?
No,
forgot
I don't
exactly
think
what
that
he called
I
him.
don't think that
Yeah.
comes up. Yeah.
So basically, he says like, "Hey, I need you to like come back." So that he's killed 2 families like sequentially, at like every like full moon or something. I think
Yeah.
it's
Two
sequential.
families with one
Yeah,
stone.
Liam loves family murder. It's like that's what I'm here
It's my
for.
favorite kind of murder.
So then he basically says like, "Hey, come back to Atlanta and like help me figure this out." Cut to Will talking to his wife Molly,
Yeah, I fell asleep during this scene the
played
first
by
time I
Mary
started
Louise
watching.
Parker.
The thankless role for the wonderful, effervescent Mary Louise Parker.
Well, she has her moments. There's a Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, no, clearly.
Moment.
Oh, that was a
Yeah.
Chekhov thing.
Yeah. Of Weed's fame. And then basically they're like, and then you also see the kid. I wrote a note here. I was like, wow, hope Hannibal eats the kid. And I was like, he's probably not going to eat the kid. But basically he tells his wife like, oh, I'm not going to go back to Atlanta. And she's like, don't go back to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And he's like, it'll just be chill.
This movie is really paint by number. Like as we're going scene by scene here, I'm kind of like, why are we going scene by scene here? Because it's really this is every murder mystery movie you've ever seen.
Yeah.
So maybe let's just abandon the scene by scene. let's just get through it.
We're
real
not
quick.
doing the procedural that Will himself goes through to find the Tooth Fairy. Dun, dun, dun.
So
he goes to Atlanta.
He goes to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And he checks
the
out the
crime
house.
scene. Yeah.
And he very quickly figures out that there's a dog that no one else has figured out. Like no one else has been like, where's the dog?
Where's the dog?
These murders were like 6 weeks
aren't
before.
good. Yeah.
The cops are terrible.
Yeah.
Awful.
It's like, hey, what do you think was in that dog bed looking thing out here at the house?
I don't know.
Who the hell knows? Strange to
Could've
me.
been anything.
It's weird. It's weird.
Did they have a giraffe? I don't know.
That's what this movie definitely needs, a fucking giraffe. Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Will's like, I think it was the giraffe. Crawford's like, I don't think it was the giraffe, Will.
No, it was the giraffe.
Yeah. He's like, we have Ralph Fiennes. Ray Fiennes? He's like,
Rafe.
he already like admitted he did it. He's like, yes. But wasn't his
Wait a
accomplice
minute.
perhaps the giraffe?
Favorite finds, Rafe or Joseph?
Ooh, Rafe.
Rafe, yeah.
Rafe, yeah. Rafe.
I think that's clear,
It's a trick
right?
question.
Yeah,
Joseph
yeah,
Fiennes is
no,
pretty good,
just-
though. He's in some great movies.
Can I do my Joseph Fiennes impersonation right now?
Sure.
Like, beep. Rafe, how it's your brother Joe? I just need another 20 quid, mate. Just, hard times, it's still trying to get that Shakespeare in Love sequel going, but we keep calling Tom Stoppard to get on that, but and beep.
Crushed it.
Beep. Hey, Rafe? Yeah, hi.
I don't know what happened. I think the phone hung up.
Joe
before.
Fiennes, your brother.
Joe.
Yeah.
Joey.
Saw you at a Easter about 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, no, I'm still...
Listen, my message cut off.
I'm still doing plays, yeah.
Yeah, but 40 quid. Maybe it's 60. Really get me through the month. Yeah, just, you know where you can find me. All right.
Your British accent is middling, but when you said month, it was perfect. It was like spot on.
Thank you. Yeah. So I love. So then the scene cuts at him in like the hotel.
Yeah.
And there's like pictures everywhere and
the
crime
orgy
scene
of
photos.
evidence,
The
like
orgy.
from
It's so
Minority
bad.
Report.
It's
Yeah.
so bad.
I'm still staring at this
Like
bad
no
dye job.
one goes like, wait a minute, and like furiously looks through
It was
papers.
Dr. House way too
Oh
early.
my god.
We should also say too that earlier in the film, during his first encounter with Hannibal says something like, "You have like this great imagination or something." Give this
You're
great
creative.
way. Yeah, that's a creative imagination. This
How's
like
my Hannibal lecture?
ability. Oh, it's amazing.
Thank you,
Yeah. This ability to like sympathize.
Bonnie.
Barney.
I do.
The
give
Barney thing was amazing.
Frankie Faison being
Yeah,
back
yeah,
from the other one,
absolutely.
and Dr. Chilton being back from the other
Amazing.
one is very
Yeah.
good.
And the anti-aging technology also used on that.
Incredible. Yeah,
Incredible.
they look 8 years older.
But also, like, did you notice he had like 5 or 6 like huge like yellow notepads like around him? And it was like, I was like,
Yeah.
is he taking that many fucking notes? Like,
No,
he's
I
been
know.
here for like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he like has like some sort of like magical epiphany. So we find out that the Tooth Fairy apparently walks into like these houses, breaks the mirrors, and then like uses the mirror shards to kill people, and then
put
shards.
the shards in their eyes because
Yeah.
he wants an
Yes.
audience.
And then he
You
kills the
son of a
dogs
bitch! You want?
beforehand.
Do you like how periodically through the film, Edward Norton will be like, "You son of a bitch! You wanted an audience."
It's. I mean, there was a direction like I don't think the audience is getting it right now.
Can I
Quick, say something out loud?
Can I real quick do my Edward Norton impression in this
Yes,
movie?
Please, yeah.
Beep. Hey, it's Ed. Do you want to do the scene again? All right. Well, I guess we can. Can you just hang on? Beep. Hey, it's Ed. Did the money go into the?
Yeah.
Hang on, I had another call. Beep, Brett. Yeah, it's Ed. We can do it again. Yeah. Beep. Joseph Fiennes, why are you calling me?
Ed, what's up with your hair?
Yeah.
Tell me about that hair.
Ed, are you okay?
Hey, Rafe, can you tell your brother to stop calling me? I don't even know what fucking quid is. He keeps asking me for
All right,
quid.
and cut. Rafe. Yeah, mate. Joseph called me again. Oh, sorry. Buggers.
He's on the side of the stat. He's like, hope nobody sees me here by the catering table. Just stealing food.
I always visit me brother on set.
Brad's like, your fucking brother's stealing food again. So he has this epiphany, and he calls Crawford, and he's like, oh my god. He's like, he wants
Son of a bitch,
yeah.
he wants them to see
he
it.
wants him to see. And there's also like the really weird details. Like he screams in the phone, he used talcum powder. He used talcum powder.
I got a text from George at 11 p.m. last night that just said talcum powder.
Oh, I also
Oh, I get that like twice a week.
Oh shoot!
Just
I thought I
random.
was.
Yeah.
I thought I was
It had
special.
nothing to do with the movie.
And then also
George just texts products he buys very often.
one of the best details also I forgot, but the conversation that he has with Crawford, Harvey Keitel, is that he says like that the killer's a secretor. It's like,
Oh,
ew.
what a line.
Ew.
What a line.
He's a secretor. Ew. So we cut to the police force, and they're having like a meeting or something. And
this is the scene
with
Bill Duke.
Bill Duke.
Yes.
Yeah, you're saying
Yes.
yeah.
from
Correct.
of Mandy fame.
Of Commando fame.
But best Bill Duke, we would say Predator, right?
Predator.
yeah,
Yeah,
Predator.
Predator's better than Commando, and also he has a much larger role, I think, in Predator.
That
Yeah.
cast in Predator is Red Dragon good.
Oh, man,
I mean, 2 governors.
I was fucking.
How do you beat that?
Oh my God, you're right, totally. You could trace back like our current like political
Oh, yeah.
situation to the Predator.
If it bleeds,
Straight line from
we can
Reagan
kill
to
it.
Commando.
So then we cut to this like I guess kind of a debriefing where Will is kind of talking to the police force and kind of filling them in.
I hate scenes like this in movies because it's like, let's get the guy standing in the back of the room to come up and talk. And
Right.
And they ask him, like, why is he doing? And he's like, because it makes him feel like he's a god.
Would you give that up?
Yeah, would you give that up?
Would you give that up, you son of a bitch?
And this is also great though because this leads to our first and one of the only Phillip Seymour Hoffman.
He's in this, got about 4 scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
However,
The
he
last
is
scene he's in is incredible.
the best thing about this movie.
Oh, I disagree.
Really?
Yeah.
Emily Watson.
Emily Watson.
Emily Watson's very, very good in this movie.
No, the tiger steals the show.
Oh.
Tiger's only in.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah. It's like, beep. Yeah, hi, Crawford. This is Will. It was the tiger all along. Beep. So, no, you think he's the best thing in this film?
No, by far.
His murder scene is incredible.
No, he's the best thing about the movie by and large.
Yeah.
I feel like we should just get through the summary so we can talk about Phillip Seymour Hoffman in this movie. But what happens next?
So then at this point, Crawford's like, you got to go back and you got to like talk to Lecter.
Right.
Because he's the one like will have like the insight or whatnot. But we also quickly find out that Phillip Seymour Hoffman plays Freddie Lowndes.
So this is the scene I
He's
want to
kind
talk
of
about
like
very
a
quickly.
paparazzo, but not really.
So they go to lunch. So the first scene with Phillip Seymour Hoffman is this one right here. Like they're leaving and the press is there,
Correct,
right?
yeah.
And Phillip Seymour Hoffman kind of sidles up. Is apparently the only competent journalist there because he's like,
Right,
I'm just
the only
gonna
guy
leave
covering this.
In every movie, there's always
Yeah.
the like idiots who are interns at like Huffington Post that have the like 1990s tape recorder, and there's the guy in the back who's like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking follow that guy over there. But he's great because like you pointed out, there's a scene earlier in this movie. Do you guys remember the scene when he's checking out the house in the first house?
yeah.
And he turns on the light and the music that
that musical cue
and
with the
that's when I
bloody
took the note
mattress.
that Brett Ratner's more scared of the Tooth Fairy than Edward Norton is because that moment would have been super powerful if he just turned on the light and it was just silence. And that's
Right.
how I feel about this whole movie. It's so campy, except Phillip Seymour Hoffman is just like, hey, I'm Phillip. Like he's the only realistic thing in the movie.
No, don't you think he's buying into the camp though a little bit?
No, not. I mean, to the degree that guy buys into camp, sure, but you're still just watching him and like you're like that's 100% who that guy is. He's just kind of like, hey,
Paul, what do you think?
I don't know. I think he was really like believable as who he was supposed to be. I don't know
Yeah.
if I would qualify it as campy.
I just feel like he definitely knows he's in a shitty movie.
no.
No, I think
I think that's actually one thing that I disagree with. I don't think he would ever approach it like that. I think he was
That's
like
fair.
took it. It's a very serious performance in a goofy as fuck movie.
Right. I mean, it almost seems like the movie slows down when he's doing his. I mean, he may be the creepiest part of this movie. In that,
So
I mean,
yeah, because
I
he's
mean,
the most realistic.
yeah. I mean, he's this oily, like low
completely
life.
amoral.
Yeah,
He needs some talcum powder.
He does.
Yeah, to
Well, and
just
also
kinda,
the
like, stop
movie.
being so oily.
It's another case of like him as a character in a movie being portrayed in a like. Edward Norton has this like beach blonde hair, and Anthony Hopkins, who sucks in this movie, who sucks in every scene of this movie.
I disagree. Not every.
Oh, he's so bad. He's the only one
He's
you're
just
kind of
really
like,
campy.
oh, like he showed up on set to play. Like it's. I'm not sitting here trying to just like talk about Phillip Seymour Hoffman agreeing all the time, but I'm increasingly just like, holy shit. This guy is like. He
The
just
scene
doesn't-
where he's murdered is incredible.
and he also
Yeah.
just doesn't give a like. He's not there to like. He's doing it in such a way that you watch his performance and you're like, this guy exists in a different movie, and he's very realistic, and that makes him scary. I felt.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, sure. I did get the vibe that he's like, this film is like beneath me. Not that there's contempt.
You are putting that on it there. It's not
It's
there.
the same
at
kind
all.
of contempt that I like bring across in this podcast. I'm like, I just like,
I don't wanna
I'm
be
clearly so much better than this. Like, of course. No, I think there was a bit of campiness too as well.
Well,
yeah.
give me an example.
I mean, I just feel like he's like playing. He's like really, I think, like overselling like the sleaziness of his character.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
Not like in a bad way.
Oh, I totally
But
disagree.
I just think like he knows the character he's playing. Like, do you think there's subtlety to the character?
Well,
no, go ahead.
I was thinking like in the scene where Ed Norton feeds him the bullshit story.
Yeah.
Like, how close is Hoffman playing that to I know what you're doing right now?
Yes.
And I'm like doing, and it was like those moments where I was like, I'm not sure if he knows he's being used, and then immediately be like, oh, he knows
Totally.
he's being used.
That's 100%.
And I was like, wow, this is it's really strong.
It is really strong. That's actually the moment I was thinking of.
Wow.
When you're kind of like, is he... This guy's not stupid. And then
Right.
and Hoffman has this ability to communicate verbally and vocally, like, yeah, I know this is bullshit, and if you try to play this card on me, and then what's his name? Crawford goes like, fuck you. Like, it's so perfectly modulated because you do spend a few seconds being like, because that part of the movie is so Brett Ratner bad because it's like, make sure you get the picture of the building in the background.
There's no subtlety.
Like, all they have to do is look at the camera and be like, we don't want the Tooth Fairy to come here.
Yeah. Wink. Although I will say this though about his performance. That scene later though, when the Tooth Fairy kills him, lights him on fire. That was really him. He went full method.
Yeah,
lit
got
himself on
glued to
fire.
that chair.
They threw him fucking down the street. I was like, that's fucking commitment. That is fucking commitment.
Let's talk about the scene where he gets murdered, though. Let's just jump ahead. Because
Can we quickly? I mean, I just want like Emily Watson. We gotta like.
Okay, so let's keep going. We'll get there.
Okay, so very quickly.
We could go back to
Yeah. Well, I guess we could go back.
because the plot will circle back.
The
to
show
it,
used to have structure, man. The show used to have structure.
Well, I just want to talk about that
This is
fucking
my
crazy
influence.
scene. So like,
No,
okay,
it's
so
not your fault. It's not your fault.
Ray Fiennes also like. So he goes to meet Lecter, and they have like this really like this exchange, obviously, which is like very typical exchange of like it's like like he speaks in riddles, he won't fucking tell them.
I tweeted Hannibal
what he
Lecter as a
wants.
shitty consultant because they're like, Hannibal, we need to know what's going on. He's like, if you look deeper, you'll find the answer.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, we're literally asking you to tell us what this
just
guy
look a
is.
little deeper.
You need to look into yourself to find the killer.
But I love the line here where it's like when Will visits him and they're like negotiating over like whether he's gonna give him the file or not. And he's like, give me the file. I need 1 hour and some privacy. I'm like, is he gonna fuck the file?
Oh yeah, he is.
He just needs to read it, you
Like, what
guys.
is he's like turning around. He's like, oh good God, Lecter's fucking the file.
He has a paper cut fetish.
What is he like an hour in privacy?
Oh my God, that sounds awful.
It's like, what the fuck is that?
But I had that moment where I actually thought, and maybe this says more about me and my opinion on like
This isn't a bad
investigative,
IPA.
like
I told you.
no, it's pretty good. They really like had to go consult the most notorious
serial killer.
for 2 murders, guys.
Yeah.
2 murders.
That's actually a really, really good
I mean,
point.
does 2 make a serial killer that you need?
I actually think you need more kills than that.
I think you do.
But then again,
More kills.
but
I
then
definitely
again,
think you do.
it
Well, how
is
many
a-
did
it
you
is
have
a-
before
it
you
is
got put on the
11
FBI
victims.
list?
It is 11 victims.
Yeah, the body count's pretty high. It's
yeah.
families.
No, that's true.
And the dog, which like really hurt me. Like,
No, that's
like that dog.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Sorry, bud.
a dog and a cat, right?
Yeah, but fuck the cat.
Yeah, fuck the cat.
Oh, guys,
Get that cat out of here.
I'm out of this podcast.
Mic drop.
It was never
Bella,
to be.
you're on.
Hello. That was awful. That was really offensive.
Feel
Yes.
nihilist endeavor. All right.
All right, cool.
All right, cool. Thank you, Bella.
Should we? What are we doing? Where are we?
So then we cut to Will goes to like another crime scene, but this is also like maybe like very close to when we finally he also drops the line very quickly because Lecter says like, oh, he might be disfigured.
Mm-hmm.
And like then you like 20 minutes later you find out that like the killer is Ray Fiennes and he has like the
An
slightest
Adonis.
Yeah, he's
an
a fucking
Adonis.
I called
That
it
tattoo is hot.
ass cheeks till the fucking cows come home, right?
Yeah,
like
very hot.
clearly worked out.
No,
and,
that's normal. He's.
and you see
You
his
don't look like that.
You see his ass. It's just normal. You see his ass cheeks a lot because he has like this ridiculous tattoo on his back of like the red dragon. But we cut to him like in this nursing home and he's like working.
First of all,
out.
that cut was how. I mean, they just get to the house. Like
Yes.
it's cut.
Thank
there was
you.
like 20 minutes in between that where all of a sudden it's just like, why are we zooming into this house? Oh wait, we're with the killer now.
Yeah,
Like,
I was like,
Yes.
oh,
There
we
was
don't know the
no-
crime scene.
and he is just pumping iron to his grandma. It is.
His grandma's yelling
Yeah,
at him.
berating
Well,
him.
it's a Psycho ripoff, right? Because you have this kind of like,
but-
no, man.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but Norman didn't pump.
Pumped to his
He,
grandma.
Nah,
He pumped was different.
Yeah, to the birds.
Is that how
he
the-
stuffed birds?
Is that how Arnold did it? Is that how he got jacked? He pumped it to his grandmother
it
like
had to
yelling
be.
at him.
Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying, like, and this is also where you find out that he works at this like photo
The
lab.
photo lab, yeah.
Photo lab.
And he is being sort of reverse Me Too'd by the. I mean, doesn't Emily Watson say something about, we all been checking out your body. Everyone thinks you got like a hot
Yeah,
body.
well,
I was like,
later.
what is going
It's
on
weird.
right
It's
now?
weird. Yeah, it's weird.
And we find out that she's blind.
So this woman
Right.
comes to see, or he comes to pick up film.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they start developing this relationship.
Yeah. So the best thing about this movie is, besides Phillip Seymour Hoffman, I think, is the relationship between
Emily Watson
Emily Watson and Ray
Joseph
Fiennes.
Fiennes' brother.
Joseph Fiennes.
Hideously disfigured.
It is hideously disfigured.
And this is also where the film, by the way, takes that weird turn, right? Because then he goes off to work, he gets hurt at the oil rig, and then he goes back to Emily Watson, and he's like, "I want you to find a man.
This is a
Make love to him.
Really quick editor's
Come
note.
back to me.
I don't have any
and tell
control
me
over
it
what
was
George
like."
says on the podcast, which is why this is just the most woefully fucking random thing I've ever heard in my life. Editor's note.
Huh? Come on, breaking the waves.
I'll talk to.
All right.
Yeah, I
It was
know.
apt, it was apt.
Breaking the
I
waves.
love it.
Guys-
I do
guys-
love
guys
it.
out
I'm
there?
getting another fucking beer.
And this is also like around the time where you find out that like he is like the Red Dragon, because Lecter basically drops like a Blake reference,
Right.
Yes.
and that Will in his detective work goes to the library
Oh yeah.
and finds
Stunning work.
Yeah, finds a reference to
We're done.
to
All right.
Blake.
We went. For
We are
it.
just now we're
plot is
fucking
gone.
doing this.
We're just
without-
going for it. I
without
threw the
a net.
notes away.
All right.
'Cause
If
this
you
movie
had to
doesn't need
be
it.
one mythical creature, which would it
Red
be? Go.
The Red Dragon.
No. Like from like any. I'll be Falcor from the Neverending Story.
Oh shit.
That's a good one.
Who are you?
Oh,
who would
I don't
you
have
be?
an answer to this. I mean, Jesus.
Oh, mythical creature.
Oh, he
Sorry.
existed. Didn't you read that Paul Verhoeven book? Jesus.
That's right. Yeah.
Of
The
Nazareth?
Gospel according. No.
To
something
to
else.
Verhoeven. Yeah.
And this is interesting because this brings me to my answer, which is RoboCop. I would be RoBocop.
All right. Let's talk about
That is
RoboCop.
a good one. Yeah.
So
So basically, then.
so this movie proceeds apace.
It does. Things happen.
Hannibal Lecter, not Hannibal Lecter.
Tooth Fairy?
Will keeps talking to Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter keeps talking in myths. The Tooth
Or in riddles.
Fairy it seems to have another set of prey because he shows another. He sort of starts to like get ready to kill another family.
Yeah.
While getting closer to Emily Watson.
Yeah, and
and-
then once you start getting laid, you kind of like leave the murder.
So then
aside.
he goes to the Brooklyn Public Library to eat the print.
Great Ray Fiennes performance
It
right
is.
there. It is probably it's the one thing I actually remembered from seeing.
Yeah, me too.
In the theater.
But also, that's not the Brooklyn fucking
no.
museum.
I mean, it's not Ray Fiennes either. It's Joseph.
And then it ends with he goes back to his house and he's gonna kill
Emily Watson.
Emily Watson, and then he
Well,
then
he
he,
abducts
then he
her.
shoots himself.
yeah.
He shoots himself.
Well, he has to consult the vault where he keeps his diary when another human being isn't around.
Right.
for
And
acres
he's being
acres.
talked to by the Red
the grandmother. Yeah, it is very Norman
and
Bates.
And the Red Dragon, right? That's the whole thing. Like
Yeah.
he's like a split personality.
Yeah.
kind
He's
of,
got a
yeah.
schizophrenic thing, and the movie ends with him with what is the movie?
So
end?
okay, so can we just briefly talk about that scene where he like shoots himself in front of Emily Watson?
Yes.
So like it makes no fucking. So as it's filmed, the camera's entirely on Emily Watson. He's burning down the house. Will knows who he is, where he lives, so they're on their way. But the way it's filmed, like he shoots himself off camera, so he doesn't really shoot himself.
Right.
And blood splatters on her, but he's not wounded at all. Like what the fuck? Where's the blood coming from?
Well, he shoots.
He
Is he
shoots
shooting
the
the
Frank
other
Whaley
guy?
body.
He's got the guy with him.
Wait,
The guy who
Frank
already
Whaley,
killed.
the boyfriend, the
Yeah.
guy that chose
The guy was
David.
hitting on her.
The guy,
I didn't realize he had the body
Brett,
on him.
Big Kahuna Burger,
Yeah,
Brett
yeah,
from
yeah.
Pulp
Oh, shit.
Fiction.
That's right.
Brett
yeah,
got
yeah.
shot twice.
Wow, that's right.
in both his roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check
Well,
out the
Frank
big
Whaley's been
brain
around.
on
Frank
Brett.
Whaley's in a bunch of stuff. Check out the big brain on Brett.
So,
Is it
so he
really
shoots
dark
that
in here?
body.
Should I
Yeah,
turn the
I
lights?
mean, I assume
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
fine.
it is.
Yeah.
What?
That's really dark in here. It's all good.
Okay.
I don't know.
If it's the mood of this really
Yeah,
bad
totally.
movie. So then you find out after the fucking place blows up. in a
Yes.
really,
No,
Edward
they-
Norton goes back to. Goes
to
back
to
to-
work on his motors
Right.
in Florida.
Yep.
And this is when Harvey Keitel gives the Tommy Lee Jones fugitive speech when he gets the phone call and when he figures out that that's not the body.
He gives
like
this
this
phone call,
long
yeah.
like get me this guy, send him here, and that's all I kept on thinking was
Yeah.
how long ago was the fugitive?
Yeah.
Where
Oh my
we're
god,
doing
The Fugitive
Outhouse.
is so fucking good.
Oh,
It's
it's
like
fantastic.
92, 93,
94.
94.
But it
Outhouse,
had that
hen
vibe
house
to
in
it.
that
Yeah,
area.
It had that vibe to it.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. So good.
And then basically, yeah, obviously, like the Red Dragon is there, in his house, and he like abducts the kid. Or,
Yeah.
like, abducts the kid. There's a standoff.
That scene is actually
Standoff,
very
we
good.
No, I fucking hated that scene.
Days Ex child abuse.
I love, but I
Days
kinda
Ex
weird.
child abuse.
but it's good. It works.
So Paul,
in
do you
want
want to explain what happens?
Yes, Paul.
Well, I mean, he has a shard of glass on the kid's throat, and Ed Norton comes up with the idea. Well, if I just berate the kid is scared enough where he
And
pees
he's
his
peeing,
pants. So then Ed Norton berates the kid in sort of the language of the grandmother, and it kind of like sets Ray Fiennes off.
Yeah, and
Which is it's clever. It's clever.
and there's
within
like
the
an
context of
unfortunate
the
like
movie.
F-bomb here.
Oh, there
in the
is.
homophobic slur. I was like, it was like, and I bet you like Ed was like, Brett, that's not on the script. He's like, no, you say it, you fucking say it, you say it, and then you fucking tell Joseph Fiennes over there to get the fuck off the set. This is 20 days in a row, and he keeps stealing fucking food from the catering.
I heard it.
I just feel bad for the guy because clearly
It
he's
is.
hungry.
It is funny how like I probably saw this movie in 2003, and that probably didn't bother me
No.
in the way that it did
Well,
now.
yeah.
But viscerally, you're like, ooh,
Yeah.
you know.
That was George Bush's America. It was like fucking anything goes.
Anyway,
Anybody know?
So no.
Anyway.
so what?
So then they kill him.
This
Well,
is
Mary
also-
Louise Parker.
Yeah, and
kills
this
him.
goes back to like Chekhov's gun because earlier there's a scene where Lecter basically tells the Tooth Fairy where Will's family lives, and they are moved to Crawford's brother's farm. And there's a ridiculous scene where
He teaches her how to shoot.
yeah, actually it's ridiculous because of the way it's like shot because it's so like I think it's like in slow mo and it's like so like overly like
Well,
dramatic.
patriarchal too.
Yeah,
There's quality of him being like, squeeze the trigger.
Oh my gun.
Yeah. And then so she's the one Will wounds him, but she's the one that like puts the final like bullet in Ray finds his ugly disfigured fucking face.
Because she was outside, just like not even knowing
Yeah.
something was going on.
Yeah. And oh wait, no, not in film. Cut back to Lecter in his
Yes, of
dungeon.
course.
Oh fuck this,
and
man.
this scene is so
And now
fucking
all of a
ridiculous.
sudden, Princess Leia just walks out and starts
Hope.
giving a speech about hope.
Hope. So so he goes like was it the Dr. Clifton or is
He's
it
like,
Barney?
Dr. Chilton.
Chilton.
Dr. Chilton's like, Hannibal, there's a woman here to see you.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to see it. And then he's walking away. He's like,
It's like, pretty, she's pretty.
tell
Yeah.
me her name.
And then it
Migs
cuts
get
to-
warmed up.
And then
The
you're
woman's
like,
coming.
cool. It's like the
And Joseph-
silent, the
Joseph
lamb
Fiennes quickly runs
cinematic
on set.
universe. Oh,
He's like, oh, it's me, mate. Give me 40 quid. Get the motherfucker out of here.
he's like, you have to pay me scale now, scale, 100 a day.
And then wait, the film's still not over because then we cut to fucking Will on a boat with his family reading a
God,
note
I
from
hate-
Lecter, which is like a love note.
That's
It's like,
right.
do well. I hope you're doing well and sailing somewhere in the Caribbean.
Why do you sound like one of the guys
Morgan
from
Freeman.
South Park right
And
now?
that's not like an exaggeration. And like Will like reads this letter, he crumples it up, fucking throws it in the sea. You know, some
Right.
dolphin's gonna die, and then like end film. Oh wait, maybe then it cuts to the Starling thing.
So let's
Yeah, I
talk-
think the
maybe
Jodie Foster sort of
is the last
reveal
thing.
was the last scene.
I think
but I
it
could be
might
wrong.
be the last
and I was
thing.
dying to see like a CGI Jodie Foster show up. And
Hope. Mr. Dr. Lecter.
But it doesn't. Oh, it's really good. Yeah.
Where was Migs?
Yeah, where
Still-
was
I'm
Miggs?
still. I
Do
mean,
you remember Miggs from Silence?
he was
No.
The
right
guy that
next door.
masturbated in the cell, no?
What did you like about this movie, George?
I thought the cast was amazing.
Okay.
We didn't talk about. We didn't talk about the fucking murder scene with Phillip Seymour Hoffman, which is probably one of the best scenes in the film.
I mean,
So let's.
there's two wheelchair deaths in
Yeah.
all of cinema. And of course, Kusturica's Underworld.
Right. Of
And
course.
now-
Holy
the
shit!
legendary-
What a fucking pull!
Hey man, I mean, brother against brother, burning wheelchair guy.
Yeah.
Some
That's
things
good,
you don't
that's
forget.
good.
What's the one in Underworld again? I forgot about it.
Like the guy at the end, he's just comes by like burning
That's right.
the wheelchair. It was like
It's
his
just like in Red
yeah.
Dragon.
It's kind of
Exactly.
absurd.
I think that's
like,
probably where Brett Ratner
it-
stole it from.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the first thing I thought of.
There's my ode to Costa Rica.
Okay, so for you, it's
I love the cast. I thought the
Cast
cast
is
was
amazing.
incredible, and I do think like the tone of it is very weird. Like it doesn't know what kind of film it wants to be.
yeah, I agree.
But I do feel like there are certain scenes that are like well crafted, and there's like a certain kind of like creepiness to some of the scenes that I think work well. But
Really?
yeah, it's
Which
not
scenes do you think are
it's
creepy?
not a good film. I'm not fucking like saying go on and watch Red Dragon.
Yeah, no, you
No, I
fucking picked it.
I felt yeah, I did fucking pick it. I did think that there were like some of the like stuff with the Tooth Fairy. I think Ray Fiennes does like a really great job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like some of the I don't know. There's like a certain kind of like creepiness. So like, you know, when you, especially when he's in the like the nursing home alone. I just feel like there was a certain kind of like tonal quality to it.
Nursing home.
Is it a nursing home that he's in?
I mean, I guess his house
It's
was
just his
like
house.
It's just his
no, I
house?
thought it was like
Oh, it was a nursing home.
orphanage
You're
or
right. You're
something.
right.
It's like a
Yeah,
nursing
you're
home or
right.
something.
Yeah,
Am I
you're right.
wrong?
You're right. I
Yeah.
forgot about the
Sorry.
sign.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like there's a certain
I
kind
just
of,
was very confused.
there's a certain kind of creepiness to it that works well in certain scenes. But like, don't fucking watch this film. It's not a good movie.
I mean, I think if you're a Lecter fan, I think
Completist.
it fits.
A Lecter completist.
What did you like about it?
I mean, I don't know. I did like Ray Fiennes. He has in you know, I know what we're joking about, but he has a physicality to him that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
amazing.
the back shot of his tattoo, it was like that was worth the admission. You know,
Back in
and
2002,
him,
yeah.
and him eating that paper, man. That's
Plus
the,
Fiennes cock. There's some
oh,
Fiennes
no,
cock
I
in
mean-
the movie.
Is there?
There's a shot of his. It's like he's running up the stairs. You're like,
Very.
Oh
brief.
yeah, no, you're
I
absolutely
definitely see
right.
his penis.
But I don't. Yeah,
Good thing I
don't
have the
know.
rental for another 24 hours.
Oh no, you should
Gotta go
watch
back.
it.
That might
Slow-mo.
not be enough hours to look at this Fiennes cock.
So what about you, Liam? What did you like about this
Yeah.
film?
The score.
I think it's a. I think that it
The
is
score.
interesting to watch this movie and think about how Jonathan Demme is a. It's easy to shit on Brett Ratner because we've been doing it for months, but it's also to me very. He's just not as talented a director.
Correct.
Like I think Jonathan Demme had like a real control over how he. I mean, the reason that guy's a villain of all time is because that movie is so well made and like it's very subtle in its way. Like it's a ridiculous, it's preposterous, but like he knew exactly. I just feel like the problem with I think one of the things I don't like about this movie is I think Anthony Hopkins is terrible in it. I think he's truly bad.
He's doing
Because
an
he's just like
impression
he's
of
doing an
Silence.
impression.
Yeah.
And then he's also like, I mean, what worked so well in the original Silence of the Lambs, not Manhunter, because I'm sure that's a masterpiece.
It
But,
is Brian Cox. Incredible.
I love Brian Cox, but
He's Hannibal
I
Lecter in
thought
Manhunter.
it was, yeah, I heard
You
that.
have
I
to
just
fucking
haven't. Yeah,
watch
I'm gonna watch it when I get home for sure. The
Tonight?
yeah, for sure.
And it's 1 o'clock in the
Absolutely.
morning. So
No.
he's
That's,
dedicated.
I'll make time. To put him in the cell so early
Yeah.
in this movie,
Yeah.
where like he's not, he's not going to get out. Like sort of
yeah,
like
that's true.
you
He's
could
not going to
sense the
escape. That's a good point.
timeline.
Yeah.
It's really like you almost like declaw the villain, and now you're just left with Ray Fiennes talking to him through
It
the
feels
press.
like a bad remake of Silence of the
Yeah,
Lambs.
it without the teeth, like
Right.
without that threat of this guy, and there's a vulnerability to Jodie Foster that
because he gets out
and
like
Norton
an
and
hour
his-
into Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah.
right? He escapes.
No,
There's that
it's closer to
incredible
the end,
scene.
but-
it's like what a scene though,
Incredible,
right?
yeah. It is,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
what
This I
a
just
scene.
remember. I don't remember the movie that well, but the sustained dread
Yes.
in that sequence is like
Yes.
because he puts on the it's just
The other
very
guy's
very
face
well.
and-
But you're right.
And
You know,
never feel
he's not going to escape from this. Yeah. So
Right,
it's kind of
because
like
he's
it's
in the
done.
cell
Yeah.
we remember from Silence of the
Right,
Lambs.
right,
It's
right,
not
right.
even like
That's a really good point.
Like they went through great pains to even like he has his drawings, and that's the first thing Clarice Starling says.
Yeah.
Like you drew these things from memory, Dr. Lecter. Like it's the exact cell that he's in, and it's just like, well, he's not getting out, and I'm just stuck with the Tooth Fairy now.
Yeah. No, totally. And we should maybe briefly talk about that scene where like so the Tooth Fairy abducts Phillip Seymour Hoffman, brings him back to his place,
right.
glues him to this like wheelchair, and then they have this like kind of like long protracted exchange where like obviously for a brief second like Phillip Seymour Hoffman thinks he's gonna get out,
It's kind of one of the only scary scenes.
and
in
he
the
does.
movie.
is.
So this
It's
scene's great too.
terrifying.
Yeah,
It's terrifying.
maybe this is the scene I was thinking about. And then he like bites his face off basically,
right.
and then he sets him on fire later on and like rolls him down.
That's awful.
in
Well,
the
and it's
street.
also brutal because there's a certain moment where he
and
he
records
shows the
him,
tattoo, and Phillip
Yes.
Seymour Hoffman starts to cry, and you're like, this is absolutely 100% believable. Like he's so believable
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
moment. He's really strong in terms of just like you're like this is a real person who's like has fucked up his life, and like this is kind of like it's all coming back to roost. Whereas like in the original he's so over the top. In the Manhunter he's preposterous and over the top. So
The
it's,
Freddie Lounds character, you mean, or the
Yes,
killer?
yes,
oh,
yes,
Freddie
yes.
Lounds.
Oh.
Yeah.
Freddie Lounds in the original is played by the actor whose name I forget. But did you guys see Avatar?
Yeah, of
He's
course.
like the military honcho guy. Steven Weber is his
not
name.
one, not one of the blue aliens.
It's not
Yeah.
one of the Na'vi, if I remember
He's
correctly.
the general hunting the poor Navi,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. That guy. He's as I recall, it's not campy, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
he's sleazier. Like Phillip Seymour Hoffman just comes off as like, it's my
Any
job.
thoughts on Emily Watson? She feels kind of wasted here.
She does. It's absolutely.
But she's so goddamn charming.
She
She's
is,
so
yes.
goddamn
Absolutely.
charming.
Yeah,
Like
she is.
because the thing is that there's no movie. I also think that relationship between her and Ray Fiennes is. I think Ray Fiennes is fine in the movie.
The
I'm not
hideous
like.
Ray
I think
Fiennes.
that he's actually the villain, and I wish the movie
Disgusting.
had more of him.
Yeah.
He's kind of wasted in the movie too, but I do think that Emily Watson is just like you feel for that character. She's the most sympathetic character, and that one scene she has with Edward Norton is maybe his best scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, you have to do something about your hair. Like it's funny and charming, and
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah.
Ed Norton should have done something about his hair in this film.
It just-
fucking
you know-
distracting.
what if all of a sudden her eyes went into focus? And she
She's
looked
like,
at
oh
him,
my
she's like,
God.
back at you, Ed.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things that it always felt cheap though, that like the blind woman could
Yeah.
be the friend of the monster, the only.
Yes.
That's one of those things that I just couldn't let
It's from
go.
Frankenstein.
Like,
Did either
Yeah,
of you
right, exactly.
read Roger Ebert's 3.5
He loves this
star
movie.
review of
Did
this
he?
movie?
He loved this movie.
He reviewed it, but he makes a good point. He's like, blind women have always been at the center of like cinema. Like they've played a huge part in like movies and stuff like that, which I thought it's an interesting historical thing to think about a
right,
little bit.
right.
It doesn't really do any. See, like that's like an interesting kind of trope or theme about this kind of, because also the killer does it too, with like putting the mirror in like people's eyes, and like trying
Right,
to like
I
this
didn't
kind
love
of sense
that.
of like reflection of like sight and of seeing, but it doesn't do anything with it.
No,
It doesn't
no,
do anything
that's the
intelligent.
thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it actually did anything. It didn't do any work.
Yeah.
It, you know.
There's a scene about midway through the movie, maybe it's 2/3 of the movie, where Ray Fiennes has Emily Watson in the house, and he's like, I have to watch a videotape.
That's weird.
And
yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I gotta work.
And so he puts
He's
on the
getting
video.
off on like
well,
I'm just gonna take my pants
I
off.
believe
Killers,
she's giving him
okay.
she's giving him a blowjob, right?
She
eventually does. Yes.
And so I was kind of watching the scene like,
and he's
What?
watching a home video that he took from one of the
yeah, and it's like it's
that he
as
killed
though
her.
like the wife, like his obsession is with the wives. So I just didn't know really. I was kind of like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean that's like such like a cheesy like kind
Yeah, it's just kind of
Mm.
bad,
of like
right?
serial killer. Well, I mean it's supposed to be just creepy, but I mean you mean like bad in the sense like it's just I don't know.
I just
tasteless?
I don't even know if it was tasteless. I just was like sort of like, well, what the fuck is this thing? And I've actually read the book, and the book I remember. I mean, I read the book like 20 years ago, but I remember finding the book like much more engaging and I don't remember this scene in it. I was bothered by it because
it's
it just
Bratner.
Bratner.
Yeah.
Bratner.
Rendition. Yeah. Brett Ratner.
I'm turning on a light. This
Bratner,
is
yeah.
ludicrous.
We should have called him Bratner. Why weren't we calling him Bratner without the entire thing?
Liam's taking his shirt off. I think he has a tattoo.
Do you guys remember the scene where they arrest Freddie Lounds and he's sitting in the interrogation room?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's this little gesture Hoffman is doing where he's just like, he's smoking and he's just pushing the ashes off the
like
the
in
table.
disdain.
And I just literally was like, this is so good. Like, this guy is so grounded in everything he does.
Mhm.
Like, whereas, like, Edward Norton be like, guys, I'm acting. Look at
Yeah.
me act.
There's a camera on me. There's a
Yeah,
camera
there's
on me.
camera on me. Someone
He's
else
a
was like,
good
fuck
actor.
it.
He is.
No, he's
yeah.
not.
No, he's good.
Come stop.
But-
But he might not be good in this. He's very stiff in this, but he's a good actor.
He's pretty stiff in everything.
I disagree.
Well, they were both in 25th Hour right after this, right?
Holy shit, he's
So,
very good in 25th
They,
Hour.
they both are, but I couldn't help thinking that, like, I mean,
I
that's
totally forgot
that's
they're
a
both
movie
in
where
that movie.
Hoffman is talking about aging poorly, like the relationship with his student, and
Yeah.
he plays it as sort of like sleazy,
Yeah.
and even though it's like an innocent sleaze, but
You
it
know
just
what's
doesn't
interesting
fly
is
anymore.
instead of Red Dragon, George could have picked 25th
Yeah,
Hour.
we could have watched something good.
I was thinking about that actually when I was watching this a lot. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe
It's because it's sort of like he has the same mannerisms, and I think like he like just rolled right into it. Like, no, I've done this before. Like,
Well, that's an
wouldn't
interesting
be-
thing to think about him as an actor because I feel like we've sort of seen two extremes, like The Big Lebowski, where he's kind of like stiff and whatever. And his career could have gone that way, but I feel like the way his career went was much more to the like, fuck it. Like these like much more kind of
Like
apathetic, nihilistic. I mean, not entirely, but like, you know, he'd play a priest. That's obviously not that kind of thing. Capote is going to be a very, very different thing. But like, I keep thinking about Mission Impossible and what makes him so interesting as a villain. And we're going to talk about that movie. is how matter of fact he is in his insanity.
Mm.
And I feel there's a little
He's
bit
the best
of
part
that
of that
in this.
movie.
He's the best part of every movie that
Well,
he's
I mean,
in, I think.
Let me know.
What?
I don't know.
He's the best part of this thing. This thing that we saw, that we watched.
Again, I think he's in it so little.
Well, who made that choice, George? Who made that decision
Yeah,
to
this
focus
was,
on it,
this
George?
I think it was actually Paul.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Fucking Paul.
Yeah, I literally watched Magnolia before I came to this.
Yeah.
Did you really?
No. But that's what I thought we were doing.
Yeah. Magnolia would have been so much better.
Saturday at Nighthawk.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
10 a.m.
Be a good one. Any final thoughts on Red Dragon? Bella, what do you think? I think
Very good.
it's very
The takes weren't long enough.
The takes, they could have been longer.
I wanted to see the giraffe slowly starve to death.
I don't.
Thank you, Bella.
Thank you, Bella. That was very helpful. I think it's a pretty bad movie, if I'm honest. And I think I feel like it's very easy to say that, and it's very easy to shit all over Brett Ratner because he's like, well, he's a shithead, but also like it's easy. I think this movie just fails to. It's based on a book that is like kind of a summer paperback read that's lurid, and the movie never transcends that. Whereas I think Silence of the Lambs really transcended the kind of like pulpy nature of its origin.
The only things that I liked about this film were like its pulpy nature. Like
Right.
I was not.
Talk more about that.
Well, I was just not bored. I was not. At certain points, I had like fun. And it was never something that I was like. I was glad to be able to turn something on and like be able to like follow like these very like generic conventions of like the procedural. Like I knew obviously.
So you were
where it was
into
going.
that.
Yeah. Although it did feel also it like
It's very long.
I was like 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Or something. I was like
2:05.
205.
Yeah.
Okay, 205. So I was like, ugh. But I wasn't bored. But it's not a good movie. I would not recommend anybody go watch this film.
When was the last time you guys saw Silence of the Lambs?
It was actually about
seen it
last
recently.
Halloween because my wife
Really?
never saw it before. So
So
watched
how
it.
does the sort of like, and I mean this seriously, like the psych, there's those amazing scenes between Jodie Foster and
Right.
Anthony Hopkins.
Right.
How do those compare to the ones in this?
Well, there's like an overwhelming like menace to and tension to those scenes, and
Okay.
when he asks her personal things, it feels like
Invasive?
Like every time she opens her mouth, it feels like she's making a mistake.
Okay.
Like by giving something to Lecter, no matter what Buffalo Bill has done, there's always that. I don't even think you should be here. Like, let Buffalo Bill escape,
Right.
You know. And in this case, it's just he's a sideshow. He's a cartoon character.
I got it.
And it's just like there's nothing thrilling or horrific about this movie, and so it's just a different animal.
Do you think
than
the
Silence of
problem
the
is
Lambs.
because we've already psychologically seen, but also like at the beginning of this movie, we see Edward Norton or Will Graham best Hannibal Lecter.
Right.
No.
So we're never, but he's
'Cause he
just
heard the
never,
word
he's
oysters.
never truly going to be haunted. He's never truly going to be like scared of this guy because he's already like survived him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's still something occasionally like menacing. Well, when he like fucks with his family from like the distance of his cell, like that's done like in a somewhat creepy manner.
So the one good Anthony Hopkins scene, in my opinion, is when he calls the woman
Yeah.
on the phone. He's like, "Be a dear and retrieve that
Yeah.
address." Like that feels like Hannibal
Menacing.
Lecter with intention because he's active. Like he has something
Yeah.
to do, as opposed to just be like sinister.
I think those-
Say the line.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
say
yeah.
the line.
100%.
I think though if you go back and watch Hannibal, it's been a very long time since I've seen it.
Hannibal?
Yeah, you will look at this film, and especially if you watch them back to back, and notice like his performance in that is like way more over the top.
I only remember eating Ray Liotta's brain.
Yeah,
That's the
or
only scene I remember.
I remember
And he
Gary Oldman being in it and being very, very good.
And he feeds like fucking children like brains to a
But
child
to
on the
your
plane. Like it's so
point-
campy. I'm not saying it's not.
No.
I think that's a better film than this.
To your point, I think that the problem with this movie is it can't decide what kind of movie
Correct.
it wants
yeah.
to be.
It's very
They
like
hired Danny Elfman.
yeah.
That's
It
I
is
mean,
really funny because Danny Elfman is I mean, his scores are really great, but it's a weird choice.
There's
right?
always there's a whimsy to it.
There
I mean,
is
is there
too.
something whimsical about
Yeah,
Hannibal
there
Lecter?
really is to something.
And there was also that one weird scene where Jim Carrey shows up playing Ace Ventura, like during one of the police
Really?
briefings. Like the
Really
tone
shocking.
here is all over the fucking place.
righty there.
He shows up, he makes a really terrible transphobic comment, and then he disappears. I'm like, that wasn't in this film. Like,
Right
why
on
the
brand.
fuck- It's like, yeah.
They
He's
just
like,
used
"Brett's like,
some
I'm fucking putting that in.
They had some B-roll from Ace Ventura 2 and Nature Calls to
Yeah.
stick in there.
There is that great line, and I wasn't a huge fan of the show, but of anyway,
What show?
I forgot what I was going to say.
The show he did with Michel Gondry.
Which show was that?
In Living Color.
In Living Color?
No, he did a show with last season that was on Amazon.
No, let's wrap it up.
What?
Let's wrap it up. I forget what I was going to say.
Oh,
No, we're
the
doing
Jim
good
Carrey,
stuff.
like the
We're
children's,
finally.
like
I feel
the
like
Pee
we're
Wee
finally
Herman.
getting somewhere. I think
No,
this
we're
is
not
good.
getting anywhere.
No,
No, we were
it
getting
was-
somewhere.
we were never getting anywhere.
But let's talk briefly about where. So we've seen.
Where are we going next?
We're going. Well, we're going to Along Came Polly. But
Oh,
it's
yeah,
interesting
yeah.
to think about. I feel like a pattern is starting to emerge in the Hoffman-ography,
The Hoffmanverse?
where there is a certain amount of like he's really amazing at being the most grounded person in the movies. Like at least in this film, it's just kind of like like it's I don't know. It's an interesting performance because he's so empty for part of it. Like there's no sense that like this guy wanted to be it's not his movie, so there's no scene where you're like, oh, this guy wants to do this kind of work or whatever the case is. But it's also he's so like I keep thinking about the scene that you mentioned before where he's interviewing Will Graham, and he always comes off as the smartest person in the room, even when he's the most shitty. It's just an interesting thing to take into
And again,
account.
his death scene is like one of the best scenes in the film.
I agree.
Without question.
Without question. Well,
We did it.
we did it. How much time? What are we at here? Oh my goodness, 54 minutes.
Is that it?
So you
Feels
want
longer.
to talk about Acceptable Woman then?
Oh,
I mean,
Who?
what-
I've never
what is-
actually. I don't know if I've ever seen.
He's in that as
Do you
much
have
as
a-
he is
As he's in
that
this-
he is.
Do you
in
have a
this movie.
favorite Phillip Seymour Hoffman performance or film?
Huh. I mean,
Put
I
you on
don't
the
know.
spot.
It's still probably Boogie Nights. He
Really?
cracks me up
He's-
in Boogie
he's-
Nights.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Like, because it
What
is
is-
sort of like
We talked about that
he's-
scene.
It's sad, like everything. It's just
I'm
like
so drunk.
there's like a longing
That's
to
the bit,
him
yeah,
that
it's
is
amazing.
just Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's strong.
We talked about that scene where that's the scene where he kisses Mark
Yeah.
Wahlberg and how that's like kind of because he's only in that movie for maybe
No, I
15
mean,
minutes, right? He's
As
not
opposed to this, where he's in it for like
12 minutes. But like he's only in that. He's not. But it's not a huge part. But there's
It's
that bit. There's no cuts. There's one cut in that scene. But just the bit when he's like, "I'm so drunk. I'm sorry." It's like you're not drunk, man.
Yeah.
You're sober.
It's like even every time, like I sort of remember that there's scenes where he's just looking at Mark Wahlberg, like
Yes.
they just show him just staring at him, and it's just like, wow, he just you get everything from those moments. That's all you need to know about that character. He doesn't even have to open his mouth. And
Yeah, he's. Amazing.
I don't know if that's P.T. Anderson or him or a combination of the two. But
Well, we'll
it's-
never know because we're not talking about it. We're talking about The Master.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Do you like The Master?
I did enjoy it, but it was one of those things where I've never gone back.
I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
Me too.
In the
yeah.
theater
I'm
too,
curious
so I
to
was
see
kind of
it.
like overwhelmed.
Empty movie.
I mean, hey, it might be, but I don't know.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful to look at, but it's
It's an overwhelming experience to see it in like 70 millimeter. I think George,
Yeah.
we saw it together.
No, I didn't see it in
Okay.
the theater. Yeah,
You didn't see it in the theater? I fell
No.
asleep twice.
I
seeing
wanted
in
to
the
see
theater.
it in Southern Miller. Yeah.
Why didn't you go? If you love the movie so
I don't know.
goddamn much.
Yeah, I think I was watching Red Dragon. This is
Oh
actually
yeah, no.
This is actually the fifth time I've seen this. I totally lied. I'm a
Guys, I watch
huge-
this movie once a week.
I'm a huge rat head.
It's on in the background right now.
It's weird. He just plays it. All right. Well, I'm Liam Billingham.
I'm George Frigopoulos.
And I'm Paul Molinari.
Can we do that again? Because I fucked up.
Okay.
Do you not know your name?
Yeah.
I'm
Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter.
Phillip Seymour Hoffman.
I'm Liam. That sounds really upsetting. I'm Liam Billingham,
I'm George Frigopoulos.
And I'm Paul Molinari.
and this was
God damn it.
Ouvra.
Busters.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for doing the show. Why did I do the Godfather trumpet? Listen, do you pay for people to do appearances? I was in some of the films you're talking about. I walked by in the back of the frame in Red Dragon. I was an orderly in a hospital during the war. What are you talking about?
During the war. I didn't even make a fucking...